Hey everybody, welcome back to Brews and Mortgage News. I'm Pete McGuinn with REMAX.
And I'm Chris Swartz with Cross Country Mortgage.
So this week's been a busy week in our industries.
It's been a wild week, definitely, Pete. And so we'll just dive right into it. I'm getting a lot of calls. Yesterday, the CPI numbers came out, and the CPI is Consumer Price Index. It measures the change in goods over time, and basically CPI went up 0.4%. So that is showing that inflation is still a concern. And with all of the rate hikes that the Fed has done, the fact that the market is not seeing inflation slow down is a real concern. And we had one of the biggest one-day movements since October of 2022, which basically put rates up almost 0.5% in one day. So it was a pretty crazy day. We saw a lot of movement in mortgage interest rates, and it's all based on the inflation data that's coming out. So we had hoped to be a little bit further along with talking rate cuts, but we're not seeing that right now. Probably not going to see as many rate cuts this year. The Fed was initially talking about possibly 4 rate cuts. We'll be lucky if we see 2.
Wow. Yep. That's a huge one-day move.
It was definitely one of the biggest moves I've seen in one day, and like I said, definitely something to think about as you're out there looking. But the market's going to do what it's going to do. There's still opportunities out there, and I want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, what are you seeing? Do you have different programs still available to first-time homebuyers, etc.?
Yeah. So even though some rates, most of the rates that are impacted by the markets, did rise almost 0.5% in one day, which is pretty unprecedented. We have other programs that are out there for first-time homebuyers. PHFA, Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, has some really great programs right now for home buyers, and those rates are still in the high 5s, low 6s.
Wow.
Yeah, so still some great opportunities there, and some of those will even give you up to 5% in down payment assistance.
Wow, that's really helpful.
Yeah, so there's still opportunity out there, but definitely wanted to share this news with the market because it was a big market mover yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are you seeing on the housing side?
The housing side of things, things are still moving along pretty good. Of those home buyers, what we're seeing is that millennials have overtaken baby boomers to become the largest segment of home buyers at 38%.
Okay.
That's from the 2024 Home Buyer and Seller Trend Report. And of that, they're saying that baby boomers have become the largest seller of homes nationally.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, with 45% of homes sold being from baby boomers, which I thought was larger than I thought it would be. But
yeah, I've heard a lot of talk about people aging in place and not selling.
Yeah,
so
I feel like some of that's been a bit overdone, and this report kind of reflects that.
Yeah.
Of those 45% of baby boomers that are home sellers, 23% of that segment are saying that they're moving to be closer to friends and family. So that makes a little bit of sense.
Okay.
You want to be close to the people you spend the most amount of time with.
We got the house, right across the street from me was for sale. I didn't see you buying.
No, I didn't. I wanted to, but it didn't work out so well. Of all the generations of home sellers, they said that 25% of them were in their house for 21 years or more, which to me is staggering.
The old 7 to 10 years,
right?
That's what
Same here.
Saying here.
Same here. But for 25% of the sellers were in their house for 21 years or more, which is just, to me, that's mind blowing.
Yeah,
mind blowing.
But they had a lot of equity.
For sure, yeah, that's for sure. The second segment of that group is 4 to 5 years in a property. That made up 14% of home sellers. So quite a jump from 4 to 5 years all the way to 21 and plus years.
Yeah, that's a shocking number.
But here locally, what we're seeing, I did some reports for the first quarter, which just ended, obviously, to see where we are in 2024 versus 2023. And what we found was for Delaware County, pretty much the same amount of homes were sold, which was surprising to me a little bit. In 23, there was 1,091 homes sold in the first quarter. In 24, that number is 1,080, so only 11 less houses, not a lot. But the year-over-year increase is 7% for the average home sales price.
Okay.
In
Chester,
appreciation. Yeah, 7% a year. I'll take that all day long. In Chester County, that's 4%. You had a 4% first quarter over first quarter increase. And those numbers those numbers were pretty similar as well. They were right about on par with last year. I think it was 975 for 2023 and 925 for 2024. So, a little bit of a variation, but not as wide as I would have thought. Considering we've been in a low inventory environment, we continue to be in a low inventory environment, but sometimes it seems like there's a little less, and this kind of goes to say that there isn't necessarily.
Sure.
So, but either way, you're seeing year-over-year increases. People that bought last year are happy because depending on where they bought, they might have a 4%, 4 to 7% increase in their value. But either way, that's great. Additionally, I wanted to discuss that in our local markets here, 4 out of the 5 most expensive areas to live in Pennsylvania are right here in our area. So number 1 is Montgomery County, 2 is Bucks County. No, I got that wrong. Correction, sorry. It is Chester County is number 1, Bucks County number 2, Montgomery 3, and Delaware County 5. So 4 out of the 5 top markets in Pennsylvania are right here, which I thought was kind of staggering. I love it here, but it seems like a lot of people love it here too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, this is great news. And I think, one of the things that this highlights is, interest rates are moving. Interest rates are higher than people might like, but it still makes sense to buy because if homes are appreciating and you're waiting, then you're going to pay that higher price. And, the data that you just shared would say, hey, if you were waiting last year for rates to come down this year, which, hey, I was waiting as a mortgage lender, I was hoping rates would come down. But guess what? They didn't. So now you're paying, depending on the county, 4 to 7% more.
Yeah.
And you can always, refinance that loan in the future. So interesting stats to see the appreciation is still there, even given the higher interest rates that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think I wanted to touch on that because so many people talk about the fact that they're on the fence, they want to wait, it doesn't make sense to wait. And this is just a little bit more evidence to say it doesn't. If you waited from last year to this year, like you said, you lost out on 4 to 7% of appreciation in your home, depending on where you want to live. So you got to do what makes sense to you, what you feel comfortable with. But if you have the ability and you're just kind of staying in place, hoping that things change, that may not be the best idea.
Great point.
So all right. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Pete McGuinn. I'm with REMAX.
And I'm Chris Swartz with Cross Country Mortgage.
And thanks for watching Brews and Mortgage News.